Did you have a chance to read M80's book?
No. I saw some of his interviews.
And what he wrote about you?
No, what did he write about me?
Well,
did he say I was a great man?
In the part about you under Rebel Arms, he spoke about the unreleased verse of yours that he licensed out, that he bought from Verbal, that situation. Do you remember that?
I wasn't aware that happened.
Well, he said that he spoke to you about it. Remember that you had called him and stuff?
A licensed verse?
Yeah.
I had differences with M80 back in the day, but it wasn't about a licensed verse. Oh, maybe that's what the true story is. I'm going to have to read some of this fucking book, I guess, huh?
Right. And then, like, basically...
No, I had gotten hit up by a kid that I have never spoken to before at one point. This is all I knew. I don't know. I don't know if this changed at some point. I don't know. This is all I know of. I dealt with Verbal. Me and Verbal were cool. I don't know if I ever gave Verbal a verse to sell to somebody.
He had 2 unreleased verses of yours, and he sold it. He sold one to M80, and M80 had licensed it out to the kid or whatever, and you contacted him upset.
Verbal might have some things to sort out with Diabolic after this conversation, to be honest with you, because I don't know what unreleased verses he has of mine that he was given to fucking sell. I don't recall that ever being a deal, because I was never paid by Verbal for anything.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's why, like, M80 said that you had called him upset and saying that, hey, I didn't get a chance to sell that kid a verse, and you just did that, and I didn't get money from that. Can you give me the $500 or whatever?
Well, no. This is what went down. This is news to me. I'm going to have to talk to M80 and Verbal about this, because this is fucking news to me. The original M80 used to have me blocked. M80 likes me now because I'm a beautiful man, you know. But no, I had gotten hit up on Facebook by some kid I'd never heard of before, never had a conversation with, and he's like, "Yo, what's up with the verse that I'm supposed to do that for me?" And I'm like, "Who the fuck are you, bro? I don't even know you. What do you mean? What are you talking about?" "Yeah, I paid for a verse from you." And I said, "Well, I don't even know you. What are you talking about? You paid for a verse from me?" And he's like, "Oh, I paid M80 for a verse from you." I was like, "What?" I was like, "M80 doesn't represent me." Like, I knew M80 in passing. I'd met him prior with cannabis and shit earlier on, and like, I knew who he was, but like, I never did business with him at the time. And so I was like, "How much did you pay?" And he's like, "I think $700 or $800. It's definitely over $500. So I hit M80 up, and I'm like, "The fuck is this? You know, like, what's going on here?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got $200 for a verse from you." And then I was like, "Oh, you got $200 for a verse from me? You mean you got $800 for a verse from me? And you're offering me now $200? So, you know, I get it. M80, you know, he's trying to make his way, you know, which I find a little shady at times, but he's in a managerial role. You know, that's what people do in that role, which I've come to grips with over the years. I used to be more of a stickler for things like that. But that's all I knew of. I didn't know anything about a license.
Well, let me read the chapter right here, this part right here, because I have it right here.
Wow, this is awesome. I'm learning things here. This is great.
After 3 years later, I would get an email from a client asking if I had a Diabolic unreleased verse or verses for license in my catalog. He said he had been trying to get a hold of Diabolic for months to no avail and had $500 for him, but at this point would settle for whatever he could get his hands on. I personally didn't have Diabolic in my catalog, but was friends with one of his longtime collaborators, Verbal, and asked if he owned any Diabolic verses he was willing to part ways with. Verbal said he had 2 verses for a project he was working on and could part ways with one of them for $350. So I hit the guy who sent the email and had him send his $500, sent Verbal his $350, and kept $150 for my efforts.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, on his end, that's fine. That's on Verbal. I'm going to have a little chit-chat with Verbal about that. I'm curious what these verses are. I'm going to have to talk to Verbal about that. We're probably gonna have to have a little
He said, as
talk.
soon as I sent the guy the files, Diabolic messaged me and I called him as he requested. He was all pissed off that I essentially backdoored him for money that could have been his and said he just hadn't had the time to connect with the guy who wanted the verse. Diabolic asked that I send him the $500.
I think he's confusing two separate stories. I think he's confusing two separate stories, though. Yeah, he might be confusing two separate occurrences of diabolic mischief he got into. I don't know, because that's not at
Well, anyway,
all
so
remotely close to
that
the
was
issue
one
at hand.
situation. That was one situation. Then he said that when you were trying to get Cannabis to sign off on the verse that he did for you for your album, yeah, later on, and he said that
Yeah, that was later. I don't know. Yeah, that was Travis. That was publishing stuff because somebody was trying to sign me. We could
he
get into
said that
that a little
he
bit,
handled
but
that for you with
he
no
was trying to
issues
sign
and
me.
everything. But later on, he goes on to say that, you know, he's grateful that you're intelligent enough to be a free thinker and discern between what's real and the lies being spewed by, you know, the estate, yada yada, that type of situation. And now he's very fond of you, basically. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, it's like, you know, I wish him and Joe didn't get into it. I don't like that. That's one thing M80 does that puts me in a really, really bad spot because I find him to be hilarious. I think he's fucking hilarious. But this whole, he went over the top, you know, because it's like you are talking about Chino's daughter here, and it's like that puts a lot of us in a tough position. Whether it's the estate and you don't agree with Stacy, aim the bullets at Stacy a little more. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I see it, you know. And then G.I. Joe bought a lot from M80. They got into it, and he's shitting on Joe. And me and Joe are close friends, and that makes things difficult. Like I can't, you know, there's no way I'd be able to stop Joe from punching you in the mouth. You know what I mean? But then again, I don't think that's where Joe's head is at. But at the same time, if that were to occur, like I can't stop it. I couldn't help you, bud. You'd be on your own, you know. But that whole situation was a fucking disaster,
Right.
you know.
But it's kind of funny though, because he writes Diabolic is also close friends with DJ G.I. Joe, which is very unfortunate since DJ Go Joe G.I. Joe announced that anyone who speaks to me are now his ops. I bet the next ex Rebel Arms Thanksgiving get together is going to be awfully weird.
he's a funny motherfucker, man. He's a funny fucking guy, dude. It's not going to be that weird. You know, we don't all have to agree all the time. You know what I mean?
Right. But I'm just,
and I don't know. I'm not so sure how much Joe necessarily agrees with Stacy at this point. I'm not so sure about that. You know, so it's like things do change. I think people were hurt, you know, because Chino passed, and then this shit took over.
Absolutely.
Instead of grieving. You know, this became where people directed their grief as opposed to actually confronting their grief, which makes a mess of thing. And then music business is messy to begin with, so.
Yeah.
And the internet. And M80's a fucking cartoon character. Take a look at him. Look at his face on the cover of that book. He looks ridiculous. He's funny.
Yeah, M80's my guy, man. I gotta commend him. You know, he's pretty entertaining. I tell people all the time, love him or hate him, that he's you know, interesting to watch. You know, you don't have to agree with him, but he's fucking entertaining to watch. You know.
Right.